All right, so the project that we're going to be working on here today is the wall mirror. It's one of my favorite projects. It tells us that by starting out, it wants us to start with our frame. And we'll take a look at this mirror over here that happens to be close to completion. And the pieces that we're actually going to start working on today are going to be these sides, top and bottom of our outside frame. They're not very big pieces. They're a little bit long. But the biggest thing that we want to remember is that we don't want to go and take a board from the rack that happens to be 6 or 7 or 8 inches wide just to rip the 1.5 inch pieces out. Great spot to maybe find a couple of cutoffs and do that. So I know a couple of you guys already went through the lumber rack and you found a few. I kind of picked some out and we rounded our numbers up to the next whole number. It looks like we need 2 at 22 and 2 at 28. This one happens to be 26, so we could use these here for our 22s. Can you agree with that? So what I'll do is, how many 22s are you going to need?
I'm gonna need 2.
You need 2? How many are you going to need?
I
2,
need 1 because I have one
2,
right there.
and 2, and everybody's going to need 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by going over to the jointer, and we're going to joint, all right, our nicest edge on each one. Now this one here looks like it may have been jointed down, but it's still not sitting 100% flush against that fence. So we are going to go ahead, we are going to join our best side. And then after the joiner, what we'll do is we'll go over to our chop saw. We're going to go ahead and we're going to cut these things down to our 22 inches, and then we'll run them down through our table saw here, okay? So cut the video, we're going to cut into it in a minute. All right, so on Ryan's piece right here, it's a rather decent sized board. So obviously, Ryan, if you run this here down through, you don't have to take any special precautions. We're just going to run it down through, flush on our back, and nice and tight down here. We're going to pick our prettiest side by sighting down it, making sure it doesn't have a real bad crown to it, or if it's really wavy. We're going to do our best side so we can do the least amount of passes with the joiner. Now, Anthony, on yours, what could be a little bit tricky with these pieces here?
Holding them?
Holding them, how come?
Because they're so small.
They are kind of short, right? And we could run the risk of having our fingers really close to the knives. So what we're going to do for this here is we can both agree that this is our best side.
Yeah, this is
All right. It might already be true, but we're going to run it through one time just to make sure that it is. And we're going to keep this down right here, and I happen to have a little push stick right here, and we're going to use this to push it down through. All right, and I'm going to be very careful when I run this down through. I'm going to show you guys how. I'm going to try to talk about it as we do it. You can see this whole area? All right, here we go. So we did it in one swift motion. Notice how when my hands were going over top of the planer, I slowed down a smidge and I kept my head in the game. I carefully went over and then I followed down through. Now, go ahead and feel that. See how much nicer that feels? And when we take this back over to our table saw, it's crisp and clean on the entire thing. So each one of you are going to have to go ahead and joint your prettiest side, and then what we'll do is we'll come over here. I know that we normally rip them down back there first, but what we're going to do first is we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut them to our rough side, and then we'll go rip them. So let's cut out, we'll cut back in a little bit. All right, so we went ahead and we have jointed our pretty side, correct? And I know that I say normally we would go ahead and rip the strips off of these first. All right, first we cut it to the rough size, which we really didn't do with these. I always pick some off. Then we went ahead and we jointed it, then we would rip it and we'd cut it to our final size. Now, the reason why we're going to cut these things here first is because the ones that we're working on right now are doing our 22s. A lot of these are like 27-ish, and it'll leave me with a little square, and I can use those little squares for with one project. So kind of thinking about that type of stuff in advance. So, does it matter when I go ahead and cut this? Does it matter which way I put this? Can I put it like this? Can I put it like this? Is there a special way it has to go? It's not so much a flush side. What is that side? What do we call it? It starts with a T. It is a jointed side. It's trued up, right? Yes. Now, another thing I would look at here, how wide are the pieces again?
Inch and a half.
They were an inch and a half, so an inch and a half and an inch and a half is 3 inches. So we're actually going to cut it off on this big side down here so that I have the opportunity to use that. So we would take this. I happen to have a stop already set up down there. It's a little bit over 22. It's maybe 22 and a 16, 22 and 8. So you're going to have to hold with your right, cut with your left, nice and slowly so that we get a nice clean cut. Let's go ahead and do that. And then you'll go back to me. Obviously, now I can use this block here for another project. All right. So what we're all going to do is we're all going to go ahead. We're all going to cut our pieces. And the next time that we cut into the video, we will be at the table saw. All right. So we've got them all cut down to our slightly over 22 inches. Now what we're going to do, can we agree that this side right here is my trued up jointed side? So where does this side need to go in relationship to the table saw when we go and rip this down? Why does it need to go on the right?
There's a screw to it, honestly.
It needs to run along this fence, right? A nice trued side on here. Then we rip it down, then we have 2 trued up sides. Now, do you remember what the width needed to be for the ripping?
Inch and a half.
It was an inch and a half. I'm going to come over here and set it up for an inch and a half. And when the guard is down right here, it's going to be very tricky for us to run down through because see how slim it is over here? So we're definitely going to need to think about that as we do it. It's going to be a little bit tricky, okay? So we're going to take this. We're definitely going to make sure that we are slightly above our board. I like that right there. Remember that when we hold this, all right, our left hand needs to stay like this. Now, normally I say keep your left hand still and push it down through, but since this edge over here, all right, is a non-trued edge, what you're going to see is you're going to see me walk it, but one finger is always holding it against the fence when I do it, and I'm walking it so that my fingers do not get a sliver going into it, okay? Remember that we push until our project, until the edge of our board gets right here, and then we will use our push stick. Do you understand that? All right, here we go. Alright, so Ryan, you're going to come over here and you're going to do your other one. And I will help you guys with these, alright? Help you hold it a little bit just in case you get off the traffic snare. Tight? Now, it looks like it is possible that this one over here is slightly wider than an inch and a half as well. And it is. So we could definitely get another one out of this for anybody else that's making a project. And I have a class that comes in 4th period, which is the period after this, that I might be able to use this. So I'm just going to save this by putting it right over here back on our lumber pile. So listen guys, we went ahead, we ripped down 2 pieces. They're both at an inch and a half. All right, the only thing that we will have to do to this next is to cut it down to our final length. So the next time we cut into the video, we're going to cut it to our final length, and that'll be the intro of this project. All right, so these right now are cut down to a rough length, which is like 22-ish, I think. I think we're like a little bit over, yeah, a smidge over. And if we look at our set of plans, it calls for them to actually be 21 and 5/8. That's this one right here. So we're going to set up a stop at 21 and 5/8. Now, we talk about when we chew up a board, we cut, we joint, we rip, and then the last one is?
Cutting the final length.
Yes, but we say cut, cut. The reason why we say cut, cut is because we cut to square it up and we cut it to our final length. So let's go over how to do that. First one that we always do, all right, We only take off the bare minimum, all right? I'm gonna take off a half a blade length. Now, does it matter if I put this side to the back or this side to the back? How come? We're both trued up, right? So take off a half a blade length. Definitely let it stop. We're gonna pull that 21 and 5/8. We're gonna make that line. We're gonna bring this right down. We're going to put our saw blade so that it's right on the left side of that line. Just on the left side right there. I'm going to hold this really good. I'm going to set my clamp. I'm then going to set my stop up like this. I'm going to loosen this up. I'm going to bring it in. We're lucky that we could use this stop here. All right, sometimes we have to clamp it to here, but we got lucky with this one. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. Put that out of my way. I know that I cut this side already. I bring it down. I'm going to hold it very tight right here. I'm pressing down very good. Let it stop. Let's take a measure. And that is 21 and 5/8 right on the money. So why don't you demonstrate how you're going to do your other one? So what's the first thing you're going to do? Yep, and we're going to take off about a half a blade's width. Let's take a look. Nice job. You could have taken off a little bit more. You could really take off a blade's width. All right, but I say half blade just to be good. Now remember, we don't want to be swinging this bad boy all around town. We just leave it down and we move it right down to our stop. We're going to hold it very good. And now look, see how they teeter like this? So that's why I told you I want you to hold it right here and you're pressing down very tight and we're going to cut very slow. All right, let's go ahead. All right, nice job. So guess what? We now have got our first two pieces all the way done. What we'll do next time is we're going to go ahead, we're going to do the same exact step, but we're going to do it with our 28-inch pieces, which will wind up being a final length, I believe, 27 and 5/8. That's it in a nutshell. Nice job.